Okay, sorry. Containing.
You know that Jonah Hill gif from Get Him to the Greek?
Yeah.
The thing about it is, supposedly the mounds are there because there was a massive war that happened where they just completely decimated the Native American population in the area. Mm-hmm. And then from there, surviving members had cursed the land forevermore. In accordance to the woman that I was reading and some of the historians that she knows, most of the people that they're citing as being on that particular land were not actually in that area at the time. And because the burial mounds are supposed to be on the top of one of the hills in the forest, one of the arguments is that there are no mounds and that the hilly areas or the places that would be more like up that people can see for farther distances were used as spotting areas and not for burials. But then I start thinking about the mounds that are near St. Louis, and a lot of them are in hilly areas. So I'm not sure I've never been there. Some people have said that it doesn't look like it's actual burial mounds, and then coming back from there, they're saying that, oh yeah, no, it's totally burial grounds. So like, I'm not an expert in this. The pictures I've seen of it, I would assume that they could go either way, but I'm not an expert. She's saying that a lot of the mound builder tribes were not either in that area or were completely eradicated prior to, like, because obviously people were utilizing that area as like traveling areas. They were completely eradicated.
Okay, well that makes sense. Okay,
so
I get that.
It could go both ways. I'm not going to yell at anyone. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that there's a different thought on lots of things.
Yeah, you're being a documentarian. Wine break.
There have been what's considered to be an unusual amount of accidental deaths on the property. The only one that there is an actual basis for seems to be a young child who, when the house was built, it was a farmhouse, so it had a barn, and obviously everything that was accompanying with that. And he was out in the barn helping his dad do stuff, and the buzzsaw that he had been utilizing, the belt had snapped on it, and then unfortunately it injured him very badly. He went to the hospital and he died about 3 hours later. Some people say it's because they were sawing down a tree, and then that's when happens. Not 100% sure, but a lot of people think it happened in the barn. So I'm going to go with that because I saw multiple sources that said that. I also saw an article where someone at the high school had somehow injured themselves with the buzzsaw, and that might have been the story that was affiliated with the barn somehow, even though it didn't take place there.
But the death is factual.
The death is factual. But like I said, I saw a number of other ways that it could have possibly happened.
Yeah. Well,
but the most commonly thought out is the barn. The reason I'm more inclined to believe that this is an actual haunting and it's not something that I'm just making up, which obviously if it was 110% proven, then it'd be in science books. We get it. Paranormal is always, it just is what it is. If you don't believe in it, okay. And if you do, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. There was also a murder in the woods as well.
Near the house?
Near the house. Very, very near the house, actually.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Danny J. Simpson and his brother David A. Simpson had wandered into the woods. Apparently they had an issue because one of them had converted to a different religion. And from there, they started arguing. Unfortunately, David had accidentally shot Danny with his gun. Danny died about an hour later. He was taken to the hospital, but unfortunately wasn't able to survive. David was sentenced on January 8th in 2000. Because it was so close to the property, a lot of people think that that might be something that's affecting, or it was affected by some sort of tumultuous presence in the forest.
Like the murder, like the accident that had happened ensued because of the energy in the forest.
Because something went awry, yeah.
Well, and there's already, I don't want to say like a pattern because we're only talking about two different things, but we're talking about the whole thing with the buzzsaw. There was an accident, somebody died. Now we're talking about these two gentlemen. There was an accident, somebody died.
Right. There's a lot of rumors that say that there was a tree that was used as a hanging post. Most specifically, a woman was supposed to have been hanged there. Her husband had gone off to war in the 40s, and she was pregnant. And they tried to accuse her of being an adulterer, that they weren't actually married, and she wasn't able to produce paperwork because it was
Is that a thing that they could kill you for in the 40s?
Apparently in this town. Sometimes the tree is called the Tree of Despair. A lot of people were supposed to be hanged on there, but there's not a ton of records, and also the tree currently is on a private property. Where they think the tree is, it's on a private property, and people will trespass to get to it, and the owners are unhappy about that.
Yeah, don't fucking do that.
People have said that a lot, and some people have tried to group it together with some murders that had taken place in the earlier days, like in the stagecoach days, that were supposed to be inflicted from two people that had owned an inn, that basically when stagecoaches would bustle past or people would come to stay at their inn, they would murder them. And if it were too cold outside to bury them, they would put them in the cellar or the crawl space in the house, wait for the ground to thaw, and then bury them later.
Wait, is that like a factual thing that happened? Or is that just like a popular story that's ingrained in the folklore?
So I've read a lot of things that I can't find I can't find any newspaper articles that said so. And the woman had written all of the information.
Yeah.
It's like, look, there were only really 2 inns along the route. It wasn't this house. So I'm not sure because, like I said, I found a lot of different sources that are saying opposite. And they're not just pull and paste sort of situations. But I wasn't there. I don't know. If the inn had existed, I don't think it has anything to do with it. And supposedly when people go to find the remains, even when it's been TV shows or documentaries, no one's actually asked the owner if they can go on their property. Which
they just do it?
Sucks. Yeah.
That's okay.
Supposedly. Once again, like, I'm not into it. Please,
very frustrating.
Please try to get permission as much as possible. I also like urban exploring, but I also am an adult and need to make sure that I don't get arrested.
And let's be honest, like, I know that we can't talk about this right now because, like, it's under wraps and we're in the works. But
by the way, I met the person that Greg knows he's part of that band.
Okay,
anyway.
Well, we've recently talked to somebody who lived in a very haunted location who had to deal with this. People just showing up and really invading their space and privacy.
Right, which we'll go into later because I'm still furious about those women.
Awful.
Going back to the inn, it was pretty commonplace for people to put bodies in cooler areas like basement cellars or crawl spaces if the ground was way too hard to bury them. So I get why that could be a logical premise.
Yeah.
And I understand how trying to justify any activity that's happening on this property that you would go with that particular story. There were a lot of people that lived on land prior to the Dandies actually moving in, but like I said, it seemed to be them that were the ones that either inspired whatever the entity or brought it or whatever to be more active. Mm-hmm. The people that had lived there said it was wonderful to live there. They've actually come out pretty often to say that they think that they're making it up and they're trying to discredit the family. But there were 6 people that saw different things. So I feel like it's harder to get everyone on board with things that are supposedly happening, including random friends that stop over.
Not everybody is going to experience activity, and some people are more susceptible to paranormal phenomena than other people.
Right, but this would be hard to ignore. If it were happening when the other families were there, it'd be harder to ignore. Even after they left the property and somebody else was living there, there were a couple people that had moved in and then would move out, and then move in, then move out. Florence and Joseph Misnick had lived there in the 80s, and they said that they really didn't see anything. But then there was another one that said that in 2009 they had an interview with the news that said that they had recounted numerous instances with some sort of ghost sighting or paranormal activity.
Oh, so they said before that they didn't, and then they said in 2009
right,
that they did.
I've seen 2 different accounts. One says that they've seen stuff, and another one says that they don't believe in it at all and it never happened. Supposedly, they died within 2 months of each other in 2010, and the house went empty for a while until it was bought later. One of their relatives had said, quote, "I'm in hopes that someone who really respects and believes in the paranormal will buy it and remodel it. They've actually come up and touched me, and I'll tell you, I was a firm non-believer," which is something that happens a lot in this house. A lot of people go in complete non-believers, and then they're the people that are, I wouldn't say singing praises on it, but being, standing behind it and being like, well, yeah, I mean, this happened, though.
Well, yeah, strongly advocating for the fact that there's something there that's out of the normal.
Right. Going back to the 70s with Clara and Phil Dandy.
Which, by the way, can we just say what a great last name?
Oh, for sure. For sure. In 1975, the Dandys, Clara and Phil, had moved in with their 4 children. When they had first moved in, they said that a few days would pass, and then they had started to kind of experience strange activity. When they had first actually gone there with the realtor, they couldn't get a door open, and it was the door to the crawl space, where they had looked in, and crawl spaces look gross. I don't care. Unless you've, redecorated a crawl space, they just look gross.
Yeah, no, I agree, because my family has a crawl space.
Yeah, they're just gross. It's like you just put items in there you don't care about.
Yeah, I've literally been inside of our crawl space at my family's house 3 times in my entire life because spiders. I won't do it. Fuck that noise.
They're good luck. They noticed that there was a dismantled fireplace inside of the crawl space, so a bunch of bricks against the wall.
What? That's so cool.
Yeah. They also were like, why would there be a fireplace in here? But once again, it's just bricks. Claire would often hear chanting coming from the woods. She had said a few different times that she thought it was Gregorian chants, which apparently are utilized sometimes to keep evil spirits at bay. The family said they would get mysterious phone calls, and items would move, sometimes floating or levitating in the house. They, like most people, to be fair, when weird stuff like that happens and you're a complete non-believer, they're just like, well, we're just imagining it. We're in the middle.
Yeah.
And they came from a city area and then went out to the middle of the woods. So I get where you start reacting.
Yeah, we try to find logical reasons for why things happen.
Yeah, which is never a bad choice. They started believing more and more that the house had some sort of entity in it. Mm-hmm. When the entirety of the family, and like I said, there's 6 of them, started seeing full-bodied apparitions of a woman in white standing in the corner of what is now called Mary's room. It's weird because apparently in her book she references that there was an animal-human hybrid.
Like the Baba Wolf?
Like the Baba Wolf. But there's been nothing else that's occurred on the property for anyone that's investigated there. There's been no backing at all by anyone else that says that this has happened. I'm not saying it didn't. I'm just saying, sometimes you think you see something and it's just a white dog on a golf green. One of the nights they noticed that there were faces that were staring into the window. And then when Mr. Dandy went to chase trespassers off the ground, he looked at the same window and it looked like they were peering from inside the house.
What?
I know. Do you imagine? Could you imagine walking outside of your house being like, please get off my land, you weirdos. Why are you even out here?
Oh my God. What?
Mm-hmm. And then similar faces in the inside now of the house.
That's terrifying.
Yep.
I'd be so fucking scared.
After this, apparently the house started to turn violent.
Oh.
More objects would levitate. A lamp had come from the living room and thrown itself at one of the daughters. Mr. Dandy had started experiencing what is considered to be amnesia, and he wasn't able to remember some of the more frightening incidents, which also could be shock-induced.
Well, I mean, yeah, something traumatic happens to you. A lot of times you repress it.
Yeah, yep, I get you. It got to a point where with these hauntings, and there's more that I'm going to go into, that they had, because they were Catholic and Clara had gone to church, had brought a priest out to bless the house.
Because that's what you do when you're Catholic. Let's just be... My family's Catholic, I get it.
Yeah. One of the daughters, Laura, was severely affected. She would be the one that was supposedly being talked to by the woman that they eventually started assuming was a demonic energy.
Oh. Oh, no. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Wait, like the lady in white that you were talking about?
The lady in whites. It got so bad in the house, and Laura was so badly affected that they called the priest back. His name was Father Alphonsus, and he was a priest from St. Bonaventure University, where they have a copy of Clara's book, who she now goes as Clara Miller, not Dandy, because she divorced and she